Good morning. On this week's episode of Haston Helping Hands, I'm going to talk to you about the poor baby, giving advice, and why you should stop saying at least when you comfort people. Okay, let's go. So the poor baby is something that I did not invent. It is credited, and attribution matters, to Jennifer Crizzy, who is a writer of romance novels that I really love. One of my favorites is this book called Faking It. You should check it out if you like romantic books. She's somebody to read. One of the reasons I love it so much, though, is it's an instant differentiator between I want a poor baby and I want your advice. And sometimes you want a middle of the road. You want to be sympathized with, and literally you want to use the words poor baby. I'm so sorry. Oh, goodness, God, that really sucks. And then you ask, do you want advice or do you just want a poor baby? I've utilized this for pretty much ever since I read the book. It landed on me. I think that's one of the reasons that I want to write a book, is because I want to come up with phrases that inspire people and help them in their daily lives. So, the poor baby. So the way that it works is that someone is telling you about something and you're not really sure if I want a poor baby or they want advice. So you ask, you say, hey, is this a poor baby? Or are you asking me for advice? So sometimes people are not sure, and that's okay too. And I highly recommend you use this with your friends and family, because it's a great way to set boundaries about what it is that you are looking for in a given moment. And it's also a way to say, you know what, I just need some comfort. And everybody does. From time to time, everybody needs comfort. So advice is completely different. I don't know about you, but I'm really good at giving advice about people to their lives and not so much for my own. So one of the things that I have noticed is that I'm very good at giving advice, and I always want to give it. So I always need to ask, is this a poor baby or do you need some advice? And the truth is more often than not, people are looking for a poor baby. They're not looking for advice. I heard something great about advice too, that most of the time when people ask your advice, they already know what they want to do. They're looking for confirmation. And I thought that that was a very interesting thing. It doesn't stop me from giving the advice that I was going to give anyway. And it's an interesting layer to that conversation. Now, here's the one that I know is probably going to be a little bit harder to swallow. Are you ready? You need to give up saying at least. It is so difficult. It's kind of like last year when I tackled the topic of first world problems. I think we should all stop saying this, because in another post I talked about the oppression Olympics. Nobody's trying to out-grief anybody else. If you're having problems, the other person's having problems too. My stubbed toe is not any less important than your bad day. And it's a hard concept to get our heads around, because I think that as a society, we are so tempted to negatively connect with people. It's like, oh, this is a bad day. Oh, this is bad. It's like, yes, it is bad. The reason I say you need to stop saying at least is because something that I have realized is that when somebody is going through a hard time, Brene Brown puts it this way. She says, most people in a difficult time will not be comforted by words that you use. They just won't. And as much as we'd like to believe that, it's a very romantic notion that we're going to come up with the right words at the right time and say exactly what people want to hear. More often than not, you're going to say her phrase, which is, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the temptation to say at least, or minimize, or justify, or say something ameliorating to the situation, say somebody has a miscarriage, you might be tempted to say, at least you know you can't get pregnant. Say somebody's getting a divorce, at least you know that you tried. It's one of those things that it feels good to the person who's saying it. It feels horrible to the person who's listening for it. So please, please stop saying at least. So to recap, the poor baby is when somebody needs comfort, not advice. Advice, sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. It is up to you as the person who's supporting whoever you're talking to say, do you want a poor baby or do you want advice? And then remember not to use the term at least, because it's not going to comfort anybody except for you, the person who's using it. And in a more practical application, I will tell you that this is something I've started using with my 4-year-old, and she uses it with me, and it's a really good communication tool, because sometimes you just need a hug. Sometimes you just need comfort, and that is absolutely 100% okay. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been Haston Helping Hands, and I'm Jenn Haston.